just something about water that is so amazing. The sound, the movement, even the scent attract the attention of all sorts of creatures, two-legged, four-legged, even winged. And people also have the impression that you have to have a lot of water and big water, especially if you're on an acreage, in order to enjoy it. That's really not true. All you really need is enough water to be able to keep the pond healthy, and then you add the elements such as all of the movement, all of the falls, all of the interesting plant material, and the amenities that will really make it a place to enjoy. This particular pond is situated perfectly to be able to be used by the homeowner. Rather than being way off in the hinterland where he might be able to hear it, go to it once in a while, it's right off the patio. And again, whether this is an acreage or a residence in town, that's one of the principles to keep in mind, is that you want to be able to enjoy the water in the areas where you actually do your outdoor living. He's put in a rather large and rather noisy waterfall, and again, that's on purpose. He keeps the pump in the pond year-round, which means he gets to listen to the water. The water attracts wildlife, and that adds its own element of enjoyment and loveliness to this particular acreage. He's got a lot of sound and movement in the falls, and that actually is going to impact the kinds of plant material he can put in the pond. Every pond, whether it's large or small, has essentially the same elements to consider. It's the depth of the pond, and that is going to determine how many fish you can have, the kinds of plants you can have, and will also have an impact on the weed population in the pond. Then you have the edges and the stones around the edges. That actually is a dry zone, certainly on the back side. People tend to think of that being a place where you can do a lot of water plants, and that actually, as I said, is going to be a place where some of those drier, more sun-loving things potentially are going to be used. Now, one thing also to keep in mind is that a pond should fit into the landscape naturally. There isn't much going on right now for the spring of the season because it's been a pretty cold spring here, but there will be additional plants added later. One of the primary major elements to any pond is going to be putting shade on the water. In this particular instance, the shade is provided by the river birch, which over the last decade has really grown and become an element that not only shades the water, but also provides a visual backdrop when the homeowner is sitting on the patio. You can provide shade on that water in other ways as well, and that certainly includes using water plants, which is a topic we're going to cover later on in the season this year. One other thing to keep in mind in putting in a pond well is the actual construction process is going to make a big difference about whether your pond is going to leak, whether it's going to have the appearance you want it to have, whether you're going to spend a lot of time managing it instead of a lot of time enjoying it. The rugosa roses and the coralberry are a couple of the plants that really like drier, sunnier conditions. In a week or so, the rugosa rose is going to be absolutely exploded with bloom, and that will add scent to the landscape as well as the movement of the water. Later on in the season, as I said, we're going to be talking about water plants. Part of the reason we're not talking about them today is it's still awfully early and it's still awfully cold. And if you choose water plants that are tropical and put them in the pond too early, you're going to lose those water plants. So that'll be a later segment. We're also going to be talking later on about how to control the ever-present, or it seems like ever-present, algae in ponds and all of those sorts of weeds that we really don't want in our water environments, either aesthetically or because they really do add an element of dislike to an environment where we really want things to be beautiful.